very much, Scott. It's a very generous introduction. I think the first thing that I have to say is the invitation to read here at the other room is especially gratifying for me because, as Scott mentioned, obviously I'm based in London, but in a strange way, the scene that's built around this reading series has been pivotal in my development as a poet. My first ever publication in a magazine a couple of years ago was with Tom Jenks's Parameter. One of the first poets who I really followed, who really took the time to support me, was Scott himself, and my first book came out with Alec Newman. So it's really a privilege to be here. I've always followed the series, so it does mean a lot to me to be here reading tonight. I'm going to read from Fights. Basically, it's a project where I take a boxer and their life, their performances, their personality, and I divide it into a 9-poem cycle. And the first 15 have been published here by Vere. And each cycle I really utilise a variety of methodologies and approaches, really how it represents each boxer being discussed. So there's going to be a whole variety of different approaches that I utilise. I'm going to start with a poem from the Klitschko cycle. I assume some of you will know who the Klitschko twins are, but if you don't, that's fine. Pugilisterian Ethics. The average man fails to recognise punching began perhaps before language utterance in scabs punched off descended pug by knuckle, but now we have the gall to see language before punches. Folly, there are an enlightened few who understand punching has now overcome language, exceeded it, overwhelmed it, not by design obviously, but punching by its nature breaks things, and broken things become overwhelmed by things that remain whole, battering rams, meteors, etc. The humour in punching is at the vastness of its inevitable success. It refuses to sneer, just thud, thud, thud. Soon shoulders sink, arms flex, and fists patter like words. Uts are used, slurs jovially, neither boastful nor apologetic. The face being hit is irrelevant, like the listener. It forms nothing. Brackets open, face, brackets closed. All know the punches will fall, and like words, which could be any sound after a while, punches can take only so many forms. Only so many gradients of angle limitation. I shan't pay the colour of maths, though it is tempting. Punches then, once forgotten by language in language, though they stood upright and voluminous in the ooze, became the afterwards, and here we pay tribute. Sharp, bodily, creative, accurate, disciplined, rewarding, bred, fed, and reliant. They mine the best of language, and so devour it to leave indents. Perhaps you can envision a punch bag with a perfect fist print, which shows a new beginning, and one that is so much the swiftest, the widest balance. One hesitates to use the word pure, but who are we to blame for that? Language. Certainly not punching. This is from the cycle Arthur Abraham, who is a German-Armenian boxer and an interesting character. Quote, at the front of the Vandal train was a mould of an animal. It wore a jaw of something animal. It was eating something animal. Playground. While Arthur Abraham still beat Edison Miranda with a broken jaw clearly, it could be seen from the video footage a looseness, a freedom the jaw shouldn't have, the dentismal argument one lip had with another, the teeth refusing to align, the loss in his expression, for his mouth was permanently open, caught light by a slash of coloured gum shield. The jaw is the jaw of David, is an emissary of the exultant young woman, a mother to be wrapped in red leather on the crib of a mountain amongst the sons, who knew death as a thevering coil, as marker, who bore this jaw as a testament to the extant that cannot be shattered beyond the shrift he will box on the bust. The jaw is an unreliable tool of expression. Its appearance cannot be trusted. His eyes spoke otherwise. His insistence is the colour of stubborn fix, abated bare. The decision was open to contention, but Abraham still won and crushed Miranda in the rematch. Proud stands the son of Arthur Abraham in the German playground. This is a few poems about the Cuban boxer Yuriorkis Gamboa, who defected from Cuba, was despised by Cubans but loved by Americans for exactly the same reason. This is a haiku from Whispers to Ugliana Solis. The real excitement of sex with American girls is their mixed heritage. Headlines. Clash of styles meant lots of fireworks. Potential champion Gamboa destroys Edwards. Gamboa, Boa, Gambo. Gamboa defeats Jimenez. fails to impress. All action Gamboa, funning Gore win on Friday. Uriokis Gamboa blast late sub-Siga in 1. Uriokis Gamboa dropped, knocked out Ramirez in true. Gamboa gambles, Gambola, Gambalala, Gamboa, Boa 3-4-5. Gamboa overcomes knockdown to defeat Gonzalez. Cuban Gamboa win, easy, easy. Gamboa claims WBA featherweight belt. Gamboa constrictor. This cycle is about the boxer Antonio Margarito, who's considered one of the toughest, kind of most relentless boxers in the world until they found him after a fight with plaster of Paris in his hand wraps. This is called Margaritaville. He turned professional at 15, fighting fully grown men in Tijuana. They speaks now as they spokes then. He has the skin for it, not the fists for it. For boxing, he hardly marks. He has a chin of granite. He fought then as he fights now, oncoming. It echoes men who provide for their families by fighting, who work as hitters, who wake at 6 in the morning to run 10 miles, men born into hidings. They are forced into tears by him. They are broken. They hit him. He starts to slow as though on purpose to insist they hope they hit him. As the minutes pass, they find themselves running. Running before they hit him. They have less room now. They rely on their fast feet, but feet hit nothing. He smiles after they catch him. He nods. This has traditionally been seen as a sign of weakness, as a pale form of taunt. Boxers laugh at their opponent's power when they are truly hurt. So the commentators jabber. He is not hurt, he is pleased. Precisely because the others have seen men fall from similar punches, does he grin so monstrously. No one hits weaker than they. He's hitting now, chasing, almost running after his opponent, but never to knock out. He is accurate, it is painful like a bone sting to watch these men be punched to the ribs, to the liver, the belly, eyebrows split, eyes ache, red swell, noses break, blood is spat, ears balloon, bleed, burst. Hundreds of punches, unrelenting volume punching like a blanket of needles and electric net. You can see them struggle to breathe. You can see the bravest of us panic. He is grinning as they dig deep. He is hitting as they fire back. They pass the point of resilience. The customary digging has struck rock. They are dying in the ring, these men. They fail to breathe, the strongest of us drowning, embarrassed. There has been nothing to prepare with them, and they plead with their eyes, hands drop, body language so human it does not belong here. Things never seen in the ring from fighters. Their fathers intervene and save them. They weep, he smiles, he bounces on his toes, unmarked almost. The perfect skin for boxing, he has consumed something from them. He is to take it with him onto the next man. And a Tijuana gang murdered his brother the day before a fight. And he won that fight. There are men so strong at 15, they pound the ground trembling and smile wise. There are men so relentless, they speak to death. This cycle is about Michael Katsidis, who is an Australian boxer from Greek heritage originally, but he uses a lot of Aboriginal war chants and kind of cries in his work as he comes into the ring. It's really interesting. Okay, this is called Michael Katsidis to Guerrero, April 9th, 2011. What the fuck are you looking at? Sakes. Oh lo, Michael, Australia weeps. Yet another fallen in ragged heaps. You enter in means handsome, and why not? He's well named, for his Japanese sister Lesbia loves his face. Swell as it might, for he would say, I, a Greek, far more than me and all my kin. For I, he would say, fight like a Greek, and I would reply, wishful thinking. And yet I give good-looking leave to sell me and all mine as sells if he can get 3 decent patrons to suffer his embrace. This is called City of Birth. Bora tau wamba tu wamba wagaman tu balimba waga waga tamba look tau bilba wacha wanda wanta nunda wanaru tau rana waramanga tarza lead waruna taragal tharwa waragal tinker and warnam pool tolga wiwa tungabi witangera tu wong weribi wilkania wilunga wudunga tudarang wrong
Tumbi, umbi, turama, wollongong, wanaru, ura la, wula ra, wulu muru, wulu mu gaba, wumera, wumtagi, woi woi, wujau, dongara, kunawara, kuron, kurai, kutamandra, gidarang, giralang, no ranga, Guni Kuga di Kunabaran Kurion Kaura Guna Laba Guna Gary Grong Jabiru Janali Jibro Pili Jipara Gunbala Yanya Kali Kamba Kanbalda Tuwamba.
This is from the cycle, again it's another one from Michael Katsidis. Basically the methodology is I've assigned each punch thrown in the fight a letter. A is jab, B is cross, E is left hook, D is right hook, S is left uppercut, T is right uppercut, U is left body hook, M is right body hook, I is jab to the body, K is cross to the body. Rounds 1 and 2 against Carl Froch. A, A, D, A, I, B, E, A, E, E, I. A, I, A, K, I. AABU, AABU, AII, AAAKI, EABA, AIBEIBA, MUIAAEIAI, AAAAABUM, ABABUBA. I'm going to read 2 poems from one cycle about Jack Dempsey. Some of you might know, historically very important American heavyweight boxer of the early 20th century. And it's just essentially one long poem that I've arbitrarily broken up into 10 parts. I'm just going to read the first and the last part. I will have a boxer's funeral without ever having been a boxer. Oh, Jack Dempsey, having sex while needed to go to the toilet, how I admire you. It's as if all needs to come out anyhow, no thought for consequence or redolence, just wounding all round every round. Dempsey, continuous in his youth, his black eyes, his filthy glove, inseam sweat, his wounded speck, his rude health and tobacco spit, his oil pomade wife beating. I kneel before history over and over and over, and I do it again. I retreat to the punched county, the nation, the county of concussion, distilling a shine black, a row as a root, a collected landing, a mongrel dogpot, his America, always ready for a fight. Imagine him readying for any fight, a butt, gouge, thumb, slice, all elbows, a third fist, the stench up close of cologne and bourbon and blood, dried and wet blood, blood of the 1920s running without complaint, with a form of pleasant meander, his intimate river rafting cruise, his gloved thumb raking a short shrift of resistance, a relentlessness many find sexually exciting, crucifying monkeys in apology epiches, Dempsey on the inside, closing your eye with the thumb of his glove like a priest after death. O man of training, the silver-decorated dagger, the symbol of a man's honour and wealth, is nothing next to Jack's lad, flopping about the place, finding its way into all comers and fists, the gunpowder horn, the flesh flag and knuckle, the ram and scripture, the anti-personnel device, the double, treble, triple, the gaudy birthday suit. Red symbolises loss, a mustard waistcoat and pocket watch, envy, ready to fight. This is number 10, Jack Dempsey. My place of work means nothing to me, and when one has come as far as I in nothing, the bird-sized tragedy of waking fear blooms into a heat, a bale of squid ink, a warm river multicoloured of sewage filled. Set forth a Jack racked the knuckles, knowing force forth to punch those snivelling dogtooths like brain cancer, grime left on ear cleaners, the horrific stomach pains after the body shot, the herniation sensation like one is going to prolapsed spice, the heavy breathing, the praying for it to end, and the relentless memory that it was Jack Dempsey inspiring some gobshite to slam a bag that has resulted in your shitting hot needles. So this is a job of work, a disappointment nexus, heartfelt, a diary of sponge and sewers and pain, a hope so brittle and useless it runs like uncooked egg, like birth fluid, like a neck bleed, because we are not Jack Dempsey. We relent easier than him, soft-knuckled and slim-browed. We give up, fail and quit, and left labours of regret. We are night workers at the abattoir, shifting on with a man called Chop, guarding the beef field corpse and pissing vinegar in curses, reminded that we watched Rocky as children, not tapes of Dempsey Willard, and so lies our amateur inspiration. Acting kills a man after men, as than the routine of reminder that we aren't strong enough to live through serious illness or collective hardships. So boxing, in his warbling fury, sheds light on the weakest of us too. This is a poem from a cycle about a boxer called Lucian But, who's from Romania. Actually, I wrote this about his wife, who's also a boxer. And initially it's dedicated to Jennifer Cooke, who's reading tonight, I believe, in London. It's called I Am a Charter Member of the Viking Sparrows. I long to be a respected member of a motorcycle gang, throwing out chains like a tongue, riding through hosts, stitching scissor wounds. Instead, I am on the periphery of a poetry gang. Some things ask to be pillaged. There exists an enemy half Janus. They are out there, one of the last damned. She bleeds until even the butchers notice. Who will toast our marble host? I am but a prospect, having been patched over. I was a charter biker of my own, the daughters of the chair. He ram raids an off-license, we ride against mercy, return pressing black, then flat with a wheel rubber and angels with the clamped bowels. All of the gangs panic, as running guns is a tiny stretch. And even speeding for an ambulance. There's no money anywhere. Nature presented to the world when vanquished by the blubber. Through the hands bobble minash, he wished to be vanguarded. In Cheshire by character, a dead grey partridge, imprinted into the blinding asphalt, and you can tell it was rich, all kinds of chicken fowl, half-feathered and pecked to death by the Viking sparrow. Okay, penultimate poem will be from a cycle about Nathan Cleverly. And when Nathan Cleverly, early on in his career, they gave him journeyman fighters, basically fighters much worse than him in standard in order to boost him and give him experience. He actually took a year off the sport because he gave one of the people that he was fighting who was far worse than him brain damage. And this the person recovered, but they had terrible speech defects and memory losses. This poem's about that. It's called Crushed English. The kid too hard is hit. Rematch. Okay, the last one's called Death of a Fire God. It's about Edwin Valero, and most people wouldn't have heard this, but it was on Yahoo News. Basically, he was held up as one of the most exciting prospects in world boxing. He had 21 fights and had scored 21 first-round knockouts, and he looked like a psychopath. He got Venezuelan flag tattooed on his chest, and then got a massive portrait of Hugo Chavez tattooed on his back. So he was a bit of a nutter, and obviously a Venezuelan patriot. And everyone thought he was a bit of a nutter, but he wore glasses outside of the ring, so they also thought he was nice. And then he killed his wife and his kid, so they knew he was a nutter. And they arrested him, and then he hung himself. Death of a fire god. Heaven and earth laboured, the crimson sea laboured, and in the sea the red reed laboured. From the reed's tip smoke rose. From the reed's tip flame rose, and in the flame a youth was running. He had hair of fire, a beard of flame, and his eyes were suns. What we do know, he would have rather died in the ring. Thank you.